It's been an incredible summer. And in honor of one of the artists that I didn't get to see this summer, but she'll be back. This episode is all about getting into the groove. So, we have a big shift at this time of year in this part of the world. But let's be kind to ourselves and remind ourselves that it always takes a little bit of time to get back into the groove. We've had an incredible few months of summer and freedom and everything that comes along with it. But all of a sudden, when we're getting back into our regular routine, things aren't as easy as we thought they were. So let's talk about what's going on and why that's happening and why it can feel so difficult to get back into the groove after some time away. I'm Natalia Loback, and this is the Change Course podcast. I've spent my career leading complex change and transformation in organizations. And over my career, I've discovered what makes complex, transformational change stick. Connected change is all about leading successful change within the context of the organization. And here at the Change Course podcast, we're all about making change sustainable. So listen in, drop us a like, a comment, and let us know how we can help you connect and change. A reminder that opinions expressed are entirely my own. Wow, what a summer it's been. And for us, it's a big shift into the regular part of the year. For others, it's just a shift in mindset. Maybe things are different for you. You don't have kids at home. You're not doing that big back to school transition. But for us, I feel like we have 10 months of the year when we're in a very set routine, and then 2 months of the year where we have massive freedom, time to visit family, beautiful, long summer days and nights, and freedom. A lot of freedom to do things that we can't do at other times of the year. But of course, this all ends and it feels like summer has ended. Although I have some friends who will fight me to the death on that summer technically ends on September 21st. But for us, it feels like there's this massive change that's happened in a very short amount of time. And it's so interesting how even though you can be an expert in change, like me, that going through change and leading through change in a personal sense inside your family can sometimes feel like the ultimate chaos. And I was having a really lovely conversation with someone yesterday. We still have access to an outdoor pool. The weather is still beautiful. We were able to go for a swim yesterday, which is one of our favorite summer activities to do as a family. And my son has really taken to the water this year through the unfortunate restrictive years that we've recently had. We haven't had the ability for him to learn really how to swim. And he, unfortunately, because of the inability to access some of these things, developed fear of the water. But this summer, I feel like we finally got over that fear. We finally found that place of joy that for us has been a real touchstone. And so we're trying to squeeze every last opportunity out of this beautiful season. And so we went to visit the pool yesterday, and I was talking to someone who I met there who is a teacher and, of course, has experienced this big shift that we've all been going through from the other side. And the subject of our conversation was not necessarily the ins and outs of her day-to-day job or what was going on. I mean, we did talk about that because I was interested to find out about what she was doing. But this idea that even though we've done this a million times, we have done this shift, this big change into our winter or fall, winter, spring routine. We've done it a million times. And certainly this person that I was talking to, she's an experienced teacher. This is her profession. This is her passion. She's been doing this, for many, many years. And even she said to me, I can't believe how tired I was last week. It was exhausting. And she was so confused. She shared with me, I don't understand why every year that first week is just so difficult. And so I laughed and I said, you know what, it is for us too. And we even had something else happen on the weekend, and you could just tell all of the kids, it wasn't just my kid, but all of the kids were just completely out of it. Didn't seem like it was like we were having a soccer tournament, and it was like they were playing soccer for the first time. They forgot how to play as a team. They didn't know what they were doing, couldn't find the ball. It was just, in one way, for, really diehard soccer parents, it was infuriating and difficult to watch. And of course, you want to hold back because you don't want to yell at the kids. You want to encourage them, right? You want to come from a place of encouragement. But at the same time, it was actually really hilarious how all these little people were just so discombobulated. And we kind of looked at it and we're like, what is going on? And then we talked to some other parents that we know, and it turns out that all the teams were playing the same way. So there you go. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? That's what it is. This is what change feels like. This is what it feels like after a week of adding new things, of having bus chaos, of having, all sorts of new things happening at the school, new classroom, new friends, new teacher. Oh my goodness, massive change, right? So, and apologies, I'm also dealing with some big changes, and as I'm trying to figure things out, I'm getting some hiccups too. So sorry you just heard my notification go off, but I'm not going to re-record this because in the spirit of adjustment and imperfection, I'm just going to let that one ride. So what is just so incredible to me, as I was having this conversation with this new teacher friend that I made at the pool, is that even though we've done it a million times, it's still hard the first time we do it. We give our brains a break. We give those neural pathways a break. And even though we've, managed to dig out those grooves, those easy pathways in our brain for 10 months of the year to say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and it becomes autopilot, we give it a break for 2 months, and that's how adaptable we are. Isn't it a wonderful thing how adaptable we are? And we don't use those pathways for 2 months. And all of a sudden, we forget. And you know what? That's okay. That's a testament to just how adaptable and amazing our brains are, how incredible our human condition is, that we can have this time of incredible freedom, this time of letting go, and then also have this time of routine and rigidity and adjusting and moving between those two phases, between those two modes of operation. It takes time to get into the groove again. So I was talking about those neural pathways and how, they get a little dusty. They get a little dusty during those times of letting go, during those times of freedom, which, by the way, we desperately need. Why? Because it allows us to step back and look and evaluate what's working and what's not. What do we want to change? How do we want to improve this? What can be better? We've made some changes this year based on reflection that we had during our time of freedom. And yes, those meant more change in the last week, but we were able to do it. And I think it's for the better. So the last thing that I want to mention about it is this frustration with ourselves. This frustration with ourselves that we don't adapt as quickly as we think we will. And this is just human nature. We think that we can adapt super quickly to any changes that are coming at us, especially if we've done it before. And the truth is that change takes time. And I love the fact this year that we built in the time for rest in the first week, the time for rejuvenation. We didn't overschedule. We didn't try to do a million things. We prioritized rest and exercise. Those were the two things that we did this week, because all of that change is exhausting. It's exhausting to the little people in our lives. It's exhausting for us. And yeah, we were tired every day. We were exhausted, but I think we managed it well. And that forgiveness and that care for ourselves to say, you know what? It could take a week to adjust. It could take 2, maybe 3, depending on how much change there is. Sometimes I hear that it's the second day that's the hardest. And I saw this too. I saw this many, many times. I've heard this many, many times too. But the idea that the first day you have the new change or the new world arrives, day one, and it's exciting, right? Because there's this element of discovery and there's excitement about, oh, what's coming for me? What's next? How are we doing this? Oh, this is cool. I like this. Let's find out about what's new. That new, like I call it, the new pencil case feeling when you're going back to school and you've got a new backpack and new school supplies, new lunchbox. And you're like, yes, I'm going to kill it this year. And then the second day is when reality hits and you're going back and you're saying, oh gosh, yeah, there are things here that I don't like. There are some things about this routine that I'm not a huge fan of. And the second day can be harder than the first. And then we are able to adjust after that. It's a progression after that, with incremental improvements and little things that get better. So if you are someone who's struggled with day two of the change, not day one, but day 2, I would like to extend my empathy and understanding for how hard that is. And to let you know that you're not alone. A lot of people experience that day 2 being the hardest day. The last thing I want to mention is the idea of incrementalism and just how powerful that is. We talk a lot about breaking down the change and making it piecemeal. So you've got just a little change to do each time, little things, one at a time, small things that make your change sustainable and easy to implement because you're not doing it all at once. And the same principle applies here when you're going through personal change. Pick a couple things to focus on in the first week and then add. But don't try to do it all at once because that is overwhelming. And of course, when you're trying to make all those changes at the same time, remember, the first day, the day of novelty, is the exciting day. Day 2, it gets harder. And when you're trying to do too much at once, it is exhausting and overwhelming. So as much as you can, if you didn't feel like you had a great week last week, my advice is break it down. Try to slim down the routine to its bare bones. Do as little as you can in the next couple weeks. And just try to reignite those grooves. Get yourself back into the groove. And then add a few more things and a few more things until you're back into the regular routine, the regular way. So with that, I wish you all a very happy back to school and big transition here in what, for us is the normal way. All of Canada goes back to school after Labor Day. I know it's very different in other parts of the US or in other parts of the world. And for those out in Australia and Southern Hemisphere, you're gearing up for your amazing spring and summer seasons. So that's got to be exciting too for you. So with that, I wish you good change. I wish you rest, and I wish you a freedom from the idea that perfection is the goal. And good luck. And I'm happy to be back here at the Change Course podcast, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, I invite you to like, share, rate, and subscribe because it helps others find us. Change Course is brought to you by Charthouse Advisory Services and ConnectedChange.com. Our music is Levity by Emily Clausen. Show notes have moved. We're now at ConnectedChange.com. So visit us there under the Change Course podcast page, and you'll find a list of all the resources that I've mentioned here today. While you're visiting us, sign up for the Change Navigator newsletter. You'll keep on top of all things change, and every month we are sharing exclusive content and resources only with our subscribers. So don't miss out. Sign up at ConnectedChange.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to change course.